Just imagine, after years dreaming of that moment, the long-awaited romantic trip to Turkey becomes a real nightmare for a couple who just wanted to rekindle their passion. But when the wife opens the door of the hotel room, she comes across a scene that froze her blood: the mother-in-law, comfortably installed on the bed that should be theirs alone. And the husband, just shrugging with the greatest naturalness in the world, "Hey, my mother also deserves rest." Worse, the lady still has the face to suggest that her daughter-in-law sleeps in a campaign bed, as if it were the most logical option in the world. Allow me to tell this story that will make you rethink even the most sacred family ties. Because what seemed like a simple holiday plan became a camp battle for territory, respect and, above all, dignity. It all started with the excitement of Lydiane, who prepared her bags with a sparkle in her eyes that only those who have been waiting for a special moment for a long time. 3 years of marriage, 3 years of routine, 3 years listening to mother-in-law's unreserved advice on how to season a simple dish. It was the couple's first international trip without Dona Nona's suffocating presence, the matriarch who thought her opinion was law. Lydiane saved each penny for 8 arduous months, dividing between the bank during the day and private classes at night. Meanwhile, Maximum contributed only a third of the value, justifying the car's financing as if Nora's accounts were less important. A week before boarding, Dona Nona began to ask too much detailed questions: hotel name, flight schedules, tour script. Lydiane, naively, thought it was just the affection of a worried mother. Until, at the airport, the truth surfaced like a bucket of cold water. There she was, Dona Ninth, with a suitcase the size of a pirate chest, dressed in a pink set that overshadowed to the lobby lights, shouting Maximinho as if it were the protagonist of a Mexican soap opera. "How lucky I managed to arrive on time," he said, while the daughter-in-law was paralyzed with shock. Maximum, nervous, tried to explain that the mother had bought a last-minute ticket. "What a coincidence, isn't it? To the same hotel." Lydiane still tried to cling to hope. "But our room is for 2 people. The answer. A tint of our huge hand, we find a way there." And so the cavalry started. Throughout the flight, Dona Ninths monopolized the attention of the commissioners, criticized the food as if she were a taster of Michelin, and announced her holiday plans aloud, as if she were in an auditorium program. Maximum, embarrassed, I could only murmur excuses to the wife, promising that there would be all resolved. But arriving at the hotel, the situation only got worse. Dona Nona had, amazed, reserved the room in her own name, paying an extra mix to become the main guest. Now they were mere guests. "In your own honeymoon." When he opened the bedroom door, Lydiane saw her mother-in-law lying on the double bed, surrounded by bottles of medicines like a walking pharmacy. "I have radiculitis, I need a decent bed." "You young people can stand the floor," he said, pointing to a lame campaign bed in the corner. It was the drop of water. Lydiane felt the blood boil. She, who had sweaty for every real of that dream, now should you sleep on the floor? As if that were not enough, Dona Nona still took over the bathroom, spreading her belongings like the owner of the piece, leaving the daughter-in-law a tiny corner for the toothbrush. On the beach, the mother-in-law reserved the best beds with towels since dawn. In the restaurant, he asked for the most expensive dishes and forgot his wallet in his room, forcing Maximum to pay with the money they had saved for tours and memories. Lydiane saw her economies melting, while her husband only cringed, repeating as a parrot, "She's elderly, can't be counting money." The trigger came on the spa. Lydiane finally had a place for a massage, dreaming of a time of peace. But when he arrived, he found Dona Ninth lying on the stretcher, with the most peace of mind in the world. "I rescheduled your time. My pains are more urgent." It was too much. Lydiane ran out, the tears dripping unreshed until she found refuge in a deserted corner of the beach. It was there that he met Helena, a Moscow psychologist with a welcoming smile and advice: "People just understand in Mora. Use their weapons against themselves." And Lydiane decided it was time to turn the game. That same night, while her mother-in-law and husband were distracted at the hotel party, she acted. He gathered all the Ninth things, got them carefully in his suitcase and left her outside the room. The campaign bed was returned at the reception. And when the pair came back, they found the door locked, with Lydiane pretending to sleep to the tall sound of the TV. The screams, the punches at the door, the threats. "It's no use. They spent the night in the lobby on uncomfortable sofas while she enjoyed the silence due to her. For breakfast, Maximum came with everything. You lost the shame. But Lydiane just smiled. Butter by bread, and you forgot who paid for all this. Dona Nona tried to appeal to the piety of employees, but the manager was clear. The room was in the name of Lydiane, and only she decided who came in. But I paid more, the mother-in-law shouted. Irregular payment, lady. The money will be refunded, replied the man, impassive. The next 3 days were Cold War. Maximo and Dona Nona moved to another room at their expense, of course, and started ignoring Lydiane as if she were invisible. But for the first time, she didn't care. After all, now he had Helena and her friends, who took her for yacht rides, dinners in candlelight and dance nights. Lydiane discovered, too late, how her trip should have been free, light and, above all, yours. Until, last night, Dona Nona decided to give the final blow. Drinking wine beyond the account, he approached the table where Lydiane was with her new friends and began a scandal worthy of a prize for Best Actress. I welcomed you like a daughter, and you throw me on the street, he shouted, dramatic. Lydiane did not even lift her eyes from the candy. Daughter doesn't steal the moment of others. You spied on our plans, bought a passage to the hidden and destroyed our trip. This is not love, it's invasion. Dona Nona lifted her hand to slap, but Lydiane held her wrist firmly. I do not recommend, he said, low and firm. There are cameras everywhere. Tourist aggression is serious. Maximo tried to interfere, but a single look from his wife made him back down. For the first time, he saw the woman who had married, not a submissive, but a lioness ready to defend her territory. And so, between the other women's admiration glances and the staff's embarrassed silence, Lydiane understood that some battles are worth it. Not for hatred, but for respect. Because vacation is not just about beaches and sun, they are about choosing every day, not letting anyone erase its shine. Not even under the disguise of family. Lydiane didn't need help. They returned to Moscow on different flights. She postponed her ticket in one day deliberately. Not out of fear, but by strategy. He needed those 24 hours away to breathe, to hear his own thoughts without the echo of the demands of others. And it was in this silence, between a solitary coffee and the city's view from the hotel window, that she made the decision that would change everything. Upon landing, he did not go to the apartment he shared with Maximum. He went straight to his parents' house. I need time to understand if I want to continue with a man who doesn't know how to defend his wife, he told him over the phone, with a calm that left him without arguments. Maximum reacted always, first with indignation, then with empty promises of talking to the mother. But the conversation never happened. Nonna Arkadievna, convinced that she was the victim of history, demanded from her son the immediate divorce of that ungrateful. Meanwhile, Lydiane moved her pieces in silence. Through common friends, she discovered a frightening pattern. It was not the first time her mother-in-law destroyed her son's relationships. The first bride fled a week before the wedding. The second resisted 6 months. Lydiane was just the third of a list that grew with the Maximum compliance. A month later, he appeared sorry, swearing that he would change, that would rent an apartment, that would cut the umbilical cord. She heard in silence and imposed a condition: couple therapy. If you want to save this marriage, prove you are willing to work for it. Maximo accepted until the first meeting with the psychologist. When the professional, with surgical delicacy, pointed to her immaturity and maternal dependence, he exploded. I won't let a stranger tell me how to live. If my wife doesn't accept me as I am, it's her problem. Lydiane did not argue. Simply signed the divorce papers. The process was fast, almost bureaucratic. There were no children, no significant goods to divide. The only Maximum petty battle was half the value of the trip to Turkey, until his lawyer explains that, without proof, he had no chance. Lydiane, on the other hand, kept each receipt. In court, Nonna Arkadievna tried to turn the trial into a theatre of accusations, but the judge cut her dramatic tirades with a dry one: "Lady, focus on legal facts." A year later, Lydiane rediscovered Elena, the resort psychologist, by chance in a bookstore. "How is married life?" asked the therapist. "I no longer have a married life," said Lydiane, with a smile that has no doubt. And I'm relieved. It told about the divorce, the new position in a multinational, English classes and plans to live abroad. Elena listened, pleased. I knew from the beginning that you weren't the curved type. I just needed time to see it in itself. And Maximum? Lydiane laughed. Lives with the mother, of course. And continues to collect frustrated relationships. At 40, he was still the eternal boy that Nonna Arkadievna manipulated, chasing any woman who dared to challenge her control. 2 decades of self-imposed solitude, disguised as maternal love. 2 years after the divorce, Lydiane married again, this time with a man who paid her own bills, made her own decisions and never asked her mother to live. The ceremony was intimate, without ostentation. The honeymoon, only the two, in the Maldives. Without unwanted guests, without family dramas. Maximum heard the news by third parties and tried to congratulate, but Lydiane had already deleted that chapter of life, a phone number included. Nonna Arkadievna still tells neighbors about the ungrateful that destroyed her son. The neighbors, however, no longer hear. They all have their own hard-off and unbearable mother-in-law stories. Meanwhile, Maximum continues to look for the right woman, the one who will love not only him but also her devouring mother. The search, as expected, has no end in sight.